Now, for what's tipping the scales, the family of a college student who vanished and later was found dead during a trip to Nashville is now suing his fraternity over his death. Riley Strain attended the University of Missouri and traveled to Nashville last March with his Delta Chi brothers. On the evening of March the 8th, Strain was kicked out of Luke Bryan's bar for being too drunk. Security cameras caught him walking away, but then he disappeared. His family was desperate to find him.
It's just as hard on them as it is on us.
And right now, we really are focusing on
bringing Riley home.
His last point.
He's my best friend. He's everything.
Strain was found dead 2 weeks later in the Cumberland River. According to the medical examiner, his manner of death was drowning and intoxication. Or that was the cause of death, rather. The manner was accidental. Now, his family claims his death was a result of the carelessness and the negligence of the fraternity. So was Riley Strain's fraternity responsible in this case? I mean, these brothers are being sued and named as defendants. Is it right? Let's talk about it. I want to bring back in attorney Tommy Pope and private investigator Manuel Gomez. Okay, Tommy, do you think the family has a strong case here?
The first thing I did when we talked about it was I wanted to look and see whether Tennessee or even Missouri, according to whether the acts would have taken place, was contributory negligence versus comparative. For your viewers, if it was contributory negligence, in many places, 1% wrongdoing on my part prevents me from being successful in a suit. But it appears both places are some type of comparative. So the question's then going to become, you know, he's of age, I assume, that, you know, did he choose to do these things? And as long as there was other responsibilities, again, it's tough. You know, I was reading something where they were saying he wasn't even wanting to go on the trip, and they kind of cajoled him to going. It's going to be interesting, and I think it's going to be extremely fact-based, whether there's anything that can ultimately stick or gets beyond a summary judgment, which is kind of like the direct verdict in our civil courts.
Mm-hmm. Right, Tommy. Yeah, appreciate those points. I know. I was somewhat surprised at this. You know, I know we thought, oh, there's a possibility they may try to sue someone. But naming brothers, the officers in the fraternity, these are his dear friends. He's also a 22-year-old. So there's that, you know, to your point about at what point is there some personal responsibility? I mean, I think everyone is so sorry that that happened to him. Nobody wanted to see him drown, and nobody wanted to see this family go through losing a child. But also, where's the line between, you know, your own free will, you know, and other people's actions around you? Manuel Gomez, I certainly want you to weigh in. As we know, many people at first thought this was a homicide. Somebody wanted to do this young man harm, and then it turns out he was just very drunk, sadly, and fell because of the steep grade in the river. And for anybody who's been in that area in Nashville, you know it's close to Broadway where those bars are. Your thoughts, please.
Well, Julie, I commend the family for filing the civil lawsuit against the fraternity, because unfortunately, this happens to our fraternities around the United States, where alcohol, mass amounts of alcohol is introduced through numerous parties and all these fraternities. And this is something that happens all the time. Unfortunately, I hope that this case of this young man is an example for all the fraternities out there to follow, that they need to have accountability. I mean, that's the whole point of being in a fraternity, brotherhood. This shows there was no brotherhood. Nobody escorted him. Julie, when you see him coming down the staircase, it's a miracle this guy was able to make it to the bottom of the staircase. He's literally stumbling when he's walking. There was no brotherhood, and I do feel that this fraternity should be accountable because they were pushing the alcohol. Granted, he's 22 years of age, but you know what? We need to set an example nationwide. This is not acceptable.
Manuel, thank you for saying that. Yeah, it does make them an example, right? You know, it does. Is there another way to go about it? Tommy Pope, I don't know if you can still hear me. Is your audio good? I hope. Okay, perfect. Just double checking. You know, so Would there be a better way to go about this, making policy changes for the fraternity rather than naming these young men as defendants in the civil action?
And ironically, oftentimes when you file a civil suit, you're throwing as big a net as possible. We talked in one of the last segments about respondeat superior, looking at who may be above that would have quite candidly, a deeper pocket. Because in civil, really financial is the only thing you can recover. And so to me, it seems and again, maybe they did it just to throw the big net, but naming individual members versus maybe the entity, kind of back to failure to train, failure to follow the rules. I think that they probably cast too broad a net in this particular circumstance.
Tommy, thank you for that. Manuel, tell me, how do you see this playing out?
Well, I agree with Tommy. I don't think that the brothers will be held accountable, but I do think the fraternity will be. And there's no doubt in my mind on that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe the national office, wherever they're located, I believe it's Delta Chi, I believe is the fraternity. I guess we'll see what happens. We've got to leave it there for time's sake. We love having you both on this program. Manuel Gomez with Black Ops Private Investigators and attorney Tommy Pope and lawmaker as well. Thank you both so much for your time and your great expertise. We'll see you soon.